Hello everybody and welcome to Macro Talk 2. It is Thursday, August the 7th today, and it's good to be back. Good to be back in the swing of things. We got a lot to talk about today. A little bit about seeing in photography. That's the kind of purpose of this gathering today, and there's some important stuff in there, but there's a few things I want to talk about first. What a day I have had. Well, what a 2-week period I've had, but today has just been crazy. Yesterday, I got to spend half the day with Angie Wallace, judging the reptiles and amphibians contest. Now, I'll be honest, I thought that this contest was going to be a bit of a bust. I mean, I didn't know that many other people were interested in photographing these amazing creatures. The pictures in this competition are mind-bogglingly good. I mean, it was amazing, and not just technically amazing, but creative and clever, and smart, funny. You're going to love them. You must not miss this video. I hope to have it finished probably by this evening, probably have it out tomorrow. It turns out to be a much bigger competition than I was expecting, but thank you everybody who submitted a picture. You are going to love the winning pictures. My goodness, are they good. I am so tempted to tell you who won, but I'm not going to, am I? No. And working with Angie again was absolutely fantastic. She is such a good judge. She is very, very thorough and just fun to work with. Thank you, Angie. Really do appreciate it. Now, let me see. The reason I'm discombobulated in getting my stuff together for today's chat was I just got so immersed in making this video of our conversation yesterday, because I was looking at all the pictures again and just mind-boggling how nice they were. There's one particular picture I need to warn you about. If your name is Kevin, you'll know it's about your picture. I questioned the identification of your animal in that, and I hope you don't take it personally. I just get pedantic about reptiles. I'll explain later. I'll write you an email. Okay, so today we're talking about what it means to see like a photographer and what we can do to get better at seeing like a photographer. And I think you're going to like this one, and I think there's a lot of stuff in here that's useful whether you're just getting started or have been doing this for decades. Saturday, color spaces. We're going to look at the straightforward stuff and the super complicated stuff like lab color on Saturday in Afterstack. Bud, Parrot and I, 10 o'clock in the morning until about 11:30. You need to bring photographs. Color photographs would be especially helpful for this weekend, and we will talk about them. That's how this thing works. We sit around and we talk about pictures and we work on how we could improve them. It's everybody piles on. It's a lot of fun. So plan on coming on Saturday. If you've never been to one and you take pictures, which is a good chance you do if you're here, then come on Saturday. Give it a try. Afterstack, 10 o'clock in the morning. Friday, tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is like right now, tomorrow, we have a new program getting started. It's for anybody who is interested in birefringent crystal photography or making crystals or anything to do with that arcane art. 2 o'clock right here. The invitation, I didn't publish a blog post this week. There's a reason for that. I won't explain it, but there's a good reason for it. I need to get you the I published the link for tomorrow's 2 o'clock. We call it crystal art, and it was published in my last blog post, so the one right before I left for Scotland. You can get it there. That's the best place to go to get it. And 2 o'clock tomorrow, and it's going to be fun. Tomorrow's an organizational meeting where we're going to go over what you guys want to do and how we want to set it up and everything like that. So if you're into crystals, come tomorrow. Next weekend, Presume, 10 o'clock in the morning until noon, and Tangent immediately following. If you're into 3D modeling, Fusion 360, all that stuff, bring a project with you if you want to talk about it, or you're going to have to hear about my latest inventions, which, yeah, you don't want to hear about that. Okay. Thank you to Klaus and thank you to Harold for super chatting me on Tuesday. I would have said something, only I didn't see it because I had it covered up. So I apologize, but thank you so much. If you don't know what a super chat is, it's where you give me money. I don't know what it's got to do with chatting, but you just give me money, and that's it. It's not a good deal for you, but it's a very good deal for me. All right, now let me see. I think I've pretty much covered everything. No, there is one other thing. There was a little bit of concern about this month's competition, which I just announced at the beginning of the week. It's on my website on the competition page. The competition is microhabitats. It's something we've never tried before. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be something you need to think about and work on. I wanted to just briefly explain to you what it is we're trying to get at and how you might want to go about approaching it. So what you need to do is photograph a living ecosystem on the micro scale. Now, this will harken back to the days when I was building terraria. I still have, by the way, a 1-year-old terrarium that's never been opened that is absolutely teeming with life. All it gets is sunlight. Everything else is self-contained within a sealed plastic container. So you can make these things in next to no time. A little bit of mud or soil, some moss, some water, some stones so that it drains nicely, and a box to put it in, a plastic box. The sun has to get in. That's the whole key. And then you seal it up, stick it in the window, and let it start to live. And before the end of the month, you'll have a very active microhabitat to photograph. And that's what we're looking for, but it doesn't have to be a terrarium. You can use a piece of moss on a rock. You can stick it under the microscope or in front of your camera and look for mites or springtails or worms or beetles. A decaying leaf that has something living on it. A fungus, a slime mold, an insect. Doesn't really matter. A slice of aquatic life, like a ladle of pond water in a petri dish. Under a microscope, under your camera setup, or in a tube even. There's so many different ways you can do it. A flower. A flower can be a microhabitat. It will support crab spiders or flower beetles. You're getting the feel for this, I'm sure. Even a piece of lichen off a stick that falls in your back garden, it will have unbelievable blend of life on it. I once found a dead bee, a dead bumblebee on my deck. And I photographed it, but it wasn't in particularly good shape. But as I got closer and closer in and was photographing the 3 ocelli on its forehead, I noticed the thing was absolutely teeming with life that had taken up residence since the bee had died. That is a micro ecosystem as well. So even photographing a dead insect could do it. So it pushes you to observe what you're doing, because the subject of the photograph is the ecosystem. It's not the subjects. It's not the springtails or the insects or the spiders that are living in there. They can be there, but it's almost like photographing New York City that just happens to have some people in the way of your photograph. That's what we're talking about here, is photographing the ecosystem or the habitat in a way that tells a story that's interesting and engaging. And if that includes having the things that live there visible, then so be it. It can be done in the field. It can be done in the studio. It can be done with an ecosystem that you make or one that you find. It is a great way to test yourself technically. Lighting these things can be difficult. The composition can be challenging. Focus stacking, things that are moving around. There's so many things that you need to think about when you're doing it. You can include subjects that are animals or plants that emphasize what's going on in the habitat. So if it's a moss-based habitat, you'd probably want to have some of the moss in there. And it's if you're a beginner, start with something simple. Start with a flower in a pot or something that you can really get a close look at. But if you've been around a while and you're looking for something more interesting, then build yourself a little habitat in a jar and see what takes up residence. Okay, so that's all I wanted to do, was clarify what this is about. The rules are the same. If you've won in the last 11 months, you can't submit but one picture. If you have not won in the last 12 months, you can submit two. Nothing that you can have done in the last 12 months will permit you to submit 3, 4, or 5. Nothing. If you do that, you'll be excommunicated. So, yeah, it's 1 or 2. 1 if you've won, 2 if you haven't. All right, so what I want to... oh, no, there was one other thing. Beg your pardon here. My Patreon peeps. First off, thank you. Thank you for your patronage and your support. I absolutely couldn't still be doing this without you. In fact, my Patreon check arrived today, and without it, I think I was going to go to debtor's prison for my trip to Scotland. It turns out the credit card people want money. The money that I used on the card. So thank you very much. But what I wanted to remind you of was on the 13th of September, there is an exclusive Patreon Tate Our Tate with none other than Lester the Living Legend Lefkowitz. Lester will be my guest. He'll be coming to the Presume, and it'll be a face-to-face time with him while he talks us through his approach to using Lightroom for organizing and not losing his photographs. He'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great hour or 2 if we can keep him around, and it's just for you guys. We'll probably release the edited version later for everybody else, but this is my thank you. Okay, all right. I know my office is a disgraceful tip, so if you have noticed that, you should not feel obliged to have to call me or leave me a message to tell me that. I'm acknowledging now that I know it is. And I've been trying to clean it up, but I don't have time. So seeing. In this remaining 45 minutes or so, well, no, we'll do less than that so that I can chat with you. I've been told I need to do that earlier. In the next half hour, we're going to explore how good photographers teach themselves to see more accurately or more completely, more fully. And there are so many tricks to doing this, so many exercises you can do, and they all help. And you'll have an immediate feedback when you start seeing, because it'll show up in your photographs. What I wanted to do today, as I was going through these reptile pictures, was I wanted to pluck a bunch of them out because they are the best examples of seeing that I have seen in any competition we've done in the last year. So absolutely fantastic, but I can't do that because I'll accidentally tell you which one won, and yeah, so we'll avoid that. So this is about developing an instinct as a photographer. Now, this probably is going to apply mostly to those of you who are new to photography or new to macro photography, because it's a bit different in macro photography how we see things. But it's also for the guy who's been photographing things for 30 years and is feeling stagnant and not getting the kind of shots you want. Not getting the shot you want starts with not seeing what you need to see to take the picture, because a photograph is simply a record of what you have seen. And it's really helpful to think of it like that. What makes a scene worth photographing? What is it about a scene that you see, and this can be on any scale. This can be through the microscope or through a wide-angle lens. What is it that actually makes a scene interesting? how do light or shadow or expressions on people's faces or subtle gestures or a moment in time define an image as great? Do you know how to answer that? How would you go about looking at a photograph to tell if it was great? What would you look for? Well, the trick here is to use exactly the same technique to look at the world. Have you ever sat around anywhere doing anything? But this last week, I was in Scotland, and I was at one point on the golf course, having just hit my last golf ball down into a ravine, and I was just standing there looking at the scene around me and composing photographs and going all the way through it. What would be the best position for the camera? What time of day would I do it? How would I shoot it to keep the people out of it or to keep the sun in the right place? And I find that I do this constantly. I do it all the time. About the only time I don't do it is when I'm here in the studio, because I don't want to photograph the inside of my studio. But when I'm out in the world and I have a minute to pause, I'll look at the scene around me and think, how would I frame a picture of this? How could I make this exciting or this interesting? And the more you do that, the more natural it becomes and the more it translates into your pictures. So some of the things that you can do to train your eye to see things is to just set a few very simple, these are things I do with my students, by the way, with students that are new to some of these concepts. I'll have them go into one room in their house and find 3 or 5 completely different textures and have them photograph those textures in a way that transmits to the viewer of the photograph exactly what that would feel like or what it would look like, and to use light and position and framing and composition to get that information into the photograph. It's a surprisingly difficult thing to do. It's a little bit easier if you pick a room like the kitchen or the garage, which usually has a lot of interesting stuff in it. But you should try it sometime. Find 5 textures and create a 5-panel set of photographs that each accurately portrays the feel and the look or the smell of what it is you photographed. All right. The other thing to think about is that oftentimes when you're looking at a scene, it helps to think about what your limitations are in that scene. Oftentimes it's light or perspective. You can't get far enough back to use the lens you want to use, or you can't get enough light in because there's one southern facing window and the room's fairly dark. So how do you take a great photograph in a set of limited circumstances? That forces you to see things in different ways. And it's really a crucial way. I often like to give a challenge to new photographers to use either reflections or shadows. That's the only thing they can photograph, but they have to make it interesting. How do you use a shadow and photograph just a shadow, make that the focus of the picture, and have it tell a story? Or photograph a scene that you're comfortable with and know about, but do it only using reflections, only using shop windows or puddles on the ground. It's very, very difficult to do, but it forces you to see. One of the other ways that I like to think about seeing is as a trick to mentally framing an image all the way to the crop that you're going to use. So it's called pre-composition, and we do it a lot in macro photography. Obviously, when you have very small subjects and very limited space because of your optics. You're going to have to be very specific about how your subject is posed. But when you're out in nature with a macro lens or with a telephoto lens, how do you want to compose the image so that you're going to get everything in? I showed a picture on Tuesday, and I also have it in that series of pictures that flashed by during the intro. It was of a building in London, the tallest building in Europe, I believe, the Shard. A terrible name for a strange-looking building, but it's a very pointy building, and it's extremely high. And by the time I saw it, I was standing right underneath it, and there was simply no way, with the only phone I had, which was my iPhone, to take a picture of the darn thing because it was so tall. So I had to come up with some creative ways to see this thing in order to be able to see a photograph emerge from it. And I took several pictures of it, just like I did a tunnel I found on the underground that was intriguing because of the colors that they had in the walls. Photographed that in a bunch of different ways. And it's incredibly helpful for your everyday photography to challenge yourself to find ways to photograph things that don't look like you could photograph them. And that's all about pre-composing the shot and setting it up, understanding the limitations of your lens, how much room you're going to have on your sensor, and you'll get better and better at this as you use different focal length lenses, for example. Most of us do other kinds of photography for fun. I love to do landscape photography and some other large-scale stuff. I'd love to do architectural photography, though I don't get time to do it much anymore. That kind of thing is a great way to challenge yourself. But whatever your hobby photography is, when you're not serious doing macro, you'll use these techniques. So learn how to pre-visualize and learn some tricks. Like, I used to carry around a card in my camera bag that I had carefully cut out the size of a frame that would represent a given lens. In this case, it was part of an exercise I was doing, and I was only giving myself a 50mm lens on a full frame sensor. So I had a square cut out, and that was my frame. And rather than carrying the camera and the lens around, I had this card, which I kept on me when I was out looking at stuff, and I would hold that up and look through it, kind of like, you know, the director of the movie will do to give himself a frame so that he can picture what this is going to look like. We do the same thing. After a while, you don't need a card with a hole cut in it, because you'll know exactly what 50mm on a full frame sensor looks like, because it's pretty close to what we see anyway. But it is a great exercise, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll come across some really good pictures doing that. So learning to visualize then is something that you can start doing today using these techniques. Now, you don't need a camera to practice your photography. And that is the other take-home message from this, is a lot of folks will compartmentalize their photography as something that they only do when they're not working, or when they're not playing sports, or whatever it is you do in your free time. You have a block of that free time that you dedicate to your photography, and when you're there, sure, you're looking at how you're going to frame your photographs, and you're thinking about these matters. The point I want to make is that's not enough. You can be having a conversation with somebody in the street and be framing a photograph. The more you do it, the better you'll see what your world is doing. And you'll more appreciate how complex and difficult it can be to come up with a photograph unless you've thought about it ahead of time. So one of the other skills to learn, and boy, this was hard for me to learn, as you may have guessed, those of you who know me pretty well. I'm a bit type A sometimes. maybe B plus. But I do like to move along pretty fast and get things done. You can't really do that too much in photography. It's the one time when I have a camera around my neck or I'm planning to start a job or a project, I have to slow down. This is particularly true when I'm out in nature, when I'm out in the field, looking for good photographs. You cannot see good photographs at 100 miles an hour. Ask anybody who does this regularly or professionally, and you'll get the same answer. You have to find a way to slow it down so that you can linger and you can see what's going on and imagine what that would look like in a photograph and start building that skill set. The way to slow down, I guess everybody has a different way of doing it. I find that the best way for me to slow down is to focus on the hardest part of whatever it is I'm doing out in the field that day, whether it's a particular shot that I'm trying to get or a particular insect I'm trying to find. It's to get as immersed into that as possible. And I'll very quickly lose myself in the process, and that will slow me down. I don't move fast when I'm lost in the process. If I'm trying to do all the easy stuff, then I'll speed up again. So pick the hard part of your day to really slow yourself down and check your progress during the day. Are you speeding up? Are you rushing? It's so easy to start doing things in a bit of a hurry because in the back of your mind you're thinking about something you have to do when you get home tonight, and in the process you just walk right past great photographs. It's so easy to do, and it's so hard to fix, but it gets better with practice. Slow yourself down when you have the camera. One thing that I like to do, though I honestly I'm not conscientious about doing it, but sometimes it happens anyway, is I think about the picture that I didn't take. When I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm working and I'm putting some content together, I'll often think about the picture that I saw that I didn't take. And that picture is sometimes even more important than the one that I saw and I did try to execute on. The process of describing to myself or to somebody else what a photograph would have looked like if I had done it often highlights for me what's important in the photograph and helps me avoid walking past it next time. I hope that makes sense. Sometimes I don't take a photograph because it's something that I don't think I'm technically good enough to do. Underwater photographs, for example. I mean, I've got equipment that will do it, but I'm just terrible at it. So I'll walk past those. But most of the time, if I have the capacity to do it and the equipment to do it, and I still choose not to do it, it's still valuable for me to remember the photographs that I didn't take. So that next time maybe I'll be more excited about doing it. All right, now I'm sure that you guys are familiar with some of the greats of photography, and I guess some of you have probably read about some of these individuals, like what's the guy's name? Henri Cartier, something like that, French guy that took that picture of that guy hopping over a puddle. A lot of photographers have this thing about being able to capture that decisive instant. Have you ever thought about that? How do great photographers manage to capture the absolutely perfect moment in a story, like the bear catching the salmon in its teeth? Well, most of the time it's just hard work. It's research, and it's spending 14 hours pointing your camera at the same bear waiting for it to catch a salmon. but not always. There is a kind of a prescience to photographers that can put themselves in the right place at the right time with the right equipment and the right lighting and the right everything by pre-visualizing the process and seeing the decisive moment before it happens, which I think is how Cartier-Bresson saw the photograph of the man hopping over the puddle of water, which I'm sure you've seen, and that moment in time, I don't believe he just happened to be there underneath his hood with nothing to photograph when this guy walked by. He probably knew that somebody was going to have to walk by, and he set up for the photograph. So there's a lot to be said for seeing ahead and looking at the outcome that you want to get, and then patiently waiting for it to appear, or doing what you need to do to make it appear. Let me see. There's a couple of other things. We're not in this discussion, at least. We're not talking about equipment. We're not talking about the lenses you use, the cameras you use, how many megapixels you've got. It's just about what you do in your own head when it comes to taking a picture. A couple of the pictures that I took while I was in Scotland, and I do apologize, I don't have them edited and ready to show you, but a couple of them, all I did was take snapshots with my cell phone, but a couple of them were really nice. Nice compositions. They were telling a meaningful story. Now, they weren't nice photographs because I'm not really good at using a cell phone for photography, but I liked the composition, the story. I will show them to you. I'll put them in my next blog post so that you can see. But yeah, there's pictures of my old house and things like that I really liked. But remember that when we're talking about pre-visualization and seeing your images, we're talking about looking at photography backwards a little bit. You know Dorothea Lange, right? The lady that shot the migrant worker photograph hundreds of years ago. Well, it can't have been hundreds. 100 years ago, maybe. The black and white photograph that is so iconic of the Depression era, and I probably just identified my lack of understanding of American history in saying all that, but it was Dorothea, and she said that the camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera. Think about that. It's profound. All right, so that's the basic overview of what we're talking about. But when I talk about looking at a scene or composing a scene, composing a photograph, sitting in a railway station like I was doing the other day, quite a lot actually, quite a lot of railway stations, and some of them are absolutely gorgeous, but you'd be sitting there waiting for a train, and there's a lot to photograph in an English or Scottish railway station. They're gorgeous buildings, and they're full of trains and people, and garbage and other things that are less lovely. But what are you looking for? When you look around you and take in the scene? Look around you right now, wherever you are, sitting in front of your computer somewhere, but turn around sideways and look at the room or out the window. What is important to look at to compose a photograph just in your head from what you see? Well, the light, right? The direction, the color, the quality, the quantity, how bright it is. Is it soft light or hard light, warm or cool, depending on the time of day? Probably nighttime in some places where you are. What about the shape of the space or the shape of the objects in the space? How is that going to play into the picture? The geometry, the lack of geometry in parts of the picture, the negative space, and symmetry. You know I love symmetry, and oftentimes when I'm looking at a scene that I'm mentally setting up a photograph for, I am looking for symmetry. just like I'm looking for leading lines and lighting gradients and other things that I find appealing. Textures, especially the kind of textures you get with light that's coming from the side, whether it be in your living room or in the evening or early morning out in your garden. That kind of light is so much more interesting when you're looking at the texture of what you're planning to photograph. And then, of course, you look for the emotion in the picture. And that's probably the hardest part. But I can tell you that when I started doing this, I could never see the story. I could never see the emotion or understand the importance of the gestures or how people looked at each other or touched each other, and this extended into my insect photography too. I didn't understand the importance of emotion in these pictures. Now, I do understand it now because I've been doing it for years and years and years, and it's what I look for. It's the telltale signs that something important is happening. A held hand or an averted gaze. There's so much that you can interpret from the way that the subjects in your photograph are interacting. And it's not just people. It can certainly be animals, but it can also be inanimate objects. The way they're relating to one another can often tell a absolutely fascinating story. And then, of course, timing is the other thing you need to look at. When you're imagining this photograph that's going to come from this scene, it's very important to think about what's going to happen to this scene temporally. Is there some change that you can anticipate? Is it going to look different in the golden hour? Or is it going to look different if a squirrel runs across right now? Or if a person goes and sits in that bench? There was a scene down in when I was living down at the coast that I loved. It was a curved pathway on the harbour. So there was water on one side and a curved it was just a footpath basically with paving stones on it and a couple of benches, and that was all. And there was one traffic light, not a traffic light, a light post that had an underpowered bulb in it, and it cast a perfectly circular ball of light right on the edge of this path. And I loved the photograph, and I photographed it a bunch of times, and I just couldn't get the feeling that I got when I looked at the scene without a camera. And then I went out one night, and there were 3 kids sitting on the edge of the pathway with their legs dangling over the edge and towards the sea. And I shot exactly the same picture, and it completely changed the picture. Obviously, it completely changed it, but it added, 3 laughing people that were loving the moment under that light in that location, and I never saw that. It takes practice to put the elements that you think are missing into a picture and plan for it that way. But anyway, it turned out to be a nice picture, and I love it. It's not about... You don't have to spend a lot of time looking at a scene and planning the technical aspects of it. In fact, when I give this exercise to people, it's not about technical. I don't care about focus. And we can fix that. If there's a problem with focus, we'll deal with that. If there's a problem with the story being incoherent, then all the focus in the world isn't going to make any difference, and the photograph can never be good. I photographed an elderly man wearing a veteran's cap, a grizzled old fellow, out by the water holding a fishing rod, sitting in a chair that was a chair that was just left out there by somebody. It wasn't a real chair. I don't even think it had a bottom in it, but he was sitting in it, holding the fishing rod and gazing out to the sea. But his fishing rod didn't have any line on it. And it was... I shot the picture in color, but later converted it to black and white, and I shot it from a long way away. but it was one of my favorite pictures of the year because, I mean, what a story. But it wouldn't have had that impact, I don't think, from any other angle. I had to climb out on a rock to shoot back in to get the angle that I wanted on his face, that showed the hat, that showed the fishing rod. Yeah, it's important to think ahead. When we're working under the high-powered lenses and we're working with insects and what have you, or inanimate objects in our macro photography, you think it's much easier to frame the shot. It's not. It's not any easier just because it's small scale. You still need to do the same things. If you want a weevil, for example, to look like it's dancing or skipping or striding across the floor, you need to be able to see that before you position the weevil and get its legs in position to photograph it. And that's the kind of stuff I love to do. But if you don't know what it's supposed to look like in your head, you can't put it in front of the camera. So let's talk for a minute about how you can train your eye to work more like a photographer's eye probably should. And the first thing we talked about earlier is slowing down. Learn how to do that. If you don't do anything else, learn to do that. The way you learn to do that is actually quite interesting. Is what I do with students is I have them set their phone for some time or other for an alarm to go off, and preferably during a time of the day when they weren't supposed to be doing anything particularly urgent. And whatever they were doing when their alarm went off, they were to find a spot right there and come up with a photograph from wherever they were. They were in the supermarket. Okay, they needed to get out of the way of the other trolleys and look around and find a photograph. Find a photograph from their standpoint when their phone told them to stop and find it. This is an incredibly powerful exercise if you've never done it before. Sometimes you could be lying on the kitchen floor trying to fish something out from under the oven, as I frequently have to do. I don't know why I drop stuff under the oven, but if your phone goes off, then you have to take a compose and imagine a picture from the vantage point of being on the floor of a kitchen. Now that gets pretty challenging. You could be in an aeroplane. Just don't be flying the aeroplane when this happens. You want to focus on the flying. But understanding how to tell a story from an unfamiliar starting point is what that exercise is all about. And it's incredibly fun. It's incredibly freeing. And the people that have really put the effort in to do this and do it maybe once a week, spend 10 minutes, that's all you have to do, picking a random time, random location, and composing a photograph. Then maybe going back and taking the photograph. But you don't have to do that. It's challenging but rewarding. When you find out who won the reptile competition today, ask that person if they pre-visualized the photograph or if they just came across it. I'll be very interested to hear what they say. I'm going to ask them the same question, but I think I already know the answer. But look at that and tell me if you could have come up with that. Actually, that's the same goes for any of the top 10 photographs. Ask any of those people, did you just see that or did you plan that? You'll be amazed. All right, so practicing without a camera, we talked about. Questions you should ask yourself are, if you don't have a camera, but you have a vague idea of what your field of view looks like at a 50mm lens on a full frame or crop frame camera, you're looking in the supermarket at this scene. You're looking at the vegetables and thinking, boy, that shot of the cucumbers and rutabagas would be fantastic. or whatever. I can't imagine wanting to photograph a rutabaga, but would you want your camera vertical or would you want it horizontal? That's the kind of thing you need to look at. It's not just about finding the idea, but it's finding the idea and how to translate it into a two-dimensional story. So, mentally frame it all the way down to your lighting and your camera position, and where you would have the camera in relation to the subject. It's another thing that you're going to see out of these competition photographs is the use of perspective that is so refreshing and so exciting to see. There are some really impressive perspective shots that, I won't say any more about it, but it makes the photograph. It really does. So we talked about the exercise of finding some textures around your house, but you can set other challenges. Work with somebody like me. If no, probably not somebody like me. Work with a photography instructor if you can. Somebody who will give you challenges that will make sense and will understand how that'll help you along. But something that I've heard people do is challenge their students to photograph something absolutely everyday, mundane, boring, and make the picture look mysterious. Now, that's a challenge, but you can do it, and you can come up with some great photographs. Remember the competition we did on storytelling, where the whole idea was to submit a photograph that told a story, and you'll remember the winning photographs were so clever, especially the one with the car and can't remember the details of it, but I loved the picture. So photographing something in a way that it's not normally depicted forces you to think about the effects of light and shadow and movement. And I talked earlier about shooting with reflections. If you've never done that before, it is really difficult. It is really difficult to get great photographs just using what you find for reflections. Pieces of glass, mirrors, puddles. Challenging. So light is everything, obviously, as we talk about over and over again. I mean, light is photography. We just are recording light. And there are a few basic compositional things that you need to think about when you're looking at light, and that is the quality of the light. If it's hard or soft or warm or cool, natural or artificial, that is going to affect how you set up your shot. So understanding the colors and the feel of different kinds of light, you've done that. I know that this is all stuff you're comfortable with, but still, look at light when you're looking at a picture you plan to take. And a much harder thing is to teach your eyes, by doing it, is to teach your eyes to look at shadows, not the light parts. Look at the dark parts and see if you can figure out why they're dark. As soon as you get good at that, you'll start to see shadows everywhere, and you'll start to pick up on inconsistencies in some photographs where the shadows don't line up properly with the light. But once you have started to see shadow, you can't unsee it. It's as important as the negative space in a photograph. You'll also be able to see where just by looking at the scene, you can tell where you're going to run into problems with specular highlights, clipping. This is a big one in macro. You can look at the dragonfly on that clothesline and you can tell exactly where the bright spots are going to be because you can see them. That's part of it, but you can also see them without the camera. In your mind's eye, you can see that it's going to be the tops of those eyes. So how are you going to battle that? How are you going to position yourself to minimize that? What are you going to do to diffuse the light? Or is there some other trick that you can use. How can you polarize the light? So looking at the picture and then walking through the problems, it helps. And don't underestimate the power of fixing a problem with a very small amount of movement. It often, you'll be out there. I'll give you an example. I was out in the woods photographing dragonflies in the fall, and it was one of the last days I went out, and it was getting cold. But I had a couple of big dragonflies that kept coming back and landing on the same piece of stump, and they were both just specular messes because of the way the sun was coming through the trees. I moved not even 9 inches to the left to get both of them absolutely perfect. So don't underestimate how a small amount of movement, a small shift in perspective can change not just the lighting, but also the compositional power of your photograph. Talking about composition, learn these things, learn what the rule of thirds means. You know what that means, right? And you know how to apply it. 3 lines across your photograph in the horizontal and vertical orientation, creating these 9 panels. And the points on that, where the lines intersect, are guides that often will help you produce a photograph that's fairly pleasing. You don't have to shoot using the rule of thirds or with leading lines or with special kinds of framing or magic spirals or whatever. You don't have to use those, but I would argue that you have to know what they are. If you're going to not use them, then I think you have to not use them consciously. You have to not use them because you've got a better idea. There's something in this setting that looks better. Sometimes, one of the things that has made my photography challenging for me is the hundreds and hundreds of covers that I have made for videos. I made 3 more this week. I make them all the time. And I have got so bad at composing photographs around a cover that I will go out and take pictures for my own pleasure and come home with a card full of photographs of video covers because my subject is positioned on the left-hand side, and I've got the certain things I look for to leave me space for the typing and everything. So yeah, you can learn that the right way too. But in order to do that, it's good to know what all of these terms mean compositionally. So learn the rule of thirds. Learn most cameras will have in their menu a guide that will actually superimpose some of these grids on your picture. Failing that, I know Lightroom's got them, so you can cycle through them and you can look at them and see what they mean. But yeah. Compositionally, breaking rules is fine, but you need to do it for a reason that you can justify to yourself. Almost always, simplicity is better than complicated. Simple is better than complicated. Sorry. Simplicity is better than complication. That would be better. So it's not always the case. There are some very complicated photographs that I have that I rather like that wouldn't pass that test. But for when you're getting started, when you're thinking about composing and trying to get better at getting emotion and feeling into your pictures, go simple. Keep the distractions to a minimum. Look for elements that kind of talk to one another, repeating elements. I love that. I was actually photographing something this morning. I have 5 or 6 compact cameras on my desk, and I thought they'd make an interesting backdrop for what I was photographing for an article. And yeah, they did, and they worked because of the symmetry that they gave to the photograph, the repeating nature. Look for things like that, because they help you. And something that I don't think folk do as often as they should. In fact, I know they don't, because I don't either. When you're lining up a photograph, either with a camera or in your imagination, walk around the perimeter of the photograph. This is where having a card with a hole cut in it really helped me out, is go around it. What is dangling down or hanging over the edge of the thing that is going to be a major distraction in the photograph? And when you see it, move to a different place that will get that out of the way. Rethink the composition. Great photographs don't happen by accident. Well, I guess they can happen by accident, but they usually don't. They happen because the photographer has taken the time to look at what he's photographing and then change gear and walk around the perimeter of the photograph and look at what he's not photographing. And if it's going to hurt the photograph, get it out of there. Maybe he sees something that's going to help the photograph, a leading line or a shadow that could be useful. So maybe he wants to accentuate that. That's what the pre-visualization is all about. So look at it before you have the photograph in Lightroom and you're saying, "Ooh, that tree sure doesn't look good right down there." You should know that before you take the picture. Some things that you can do, and I'm a little reluctant to make this point. I would have made it more vocally, I think, before this last trip. I didn't take a camera to Scotland. I took my phone. Not sure if it was a good idea. Well, it was a good idea not having to give my camera to the people that chuck it into the plane. But yeah, it was a bad idea using the phone because I'm not, as I've said, not really crazy about it. There is something about the phone, though, that will really help you develop your seeing ability as a photographer. And that is, you can use the grid lines that the phone gives you in the live view thing. You know, when you turn the camera on, basically it gives you the grid. But you can also you can also shoot with one focal length lens, and you can get comfortable with what 50 millimeters looks like, and that is very helpful for those people who are not yet at the point where they can comfortably just imagine the edges of the picture, and you need something more concrete. I think that the phones help. I wouldn't lean on it too hard, to be honest. Yeah, phones, digital pictures are not very appealing to me. I don't know I don't know why they're so popular. By digital I mean small sensor phone pictures, but I'm not going to rant on about that today. So travel. This is an opportunity to see things that you don't see every day. It's a little bit difficult to do some of these exercises in very familiar surroundings, because if you see this, oh my goodness, it's 3 o'clock. If you see the same things every day, it's going to be very hard for you to break that mold and think of a new way of looking at them. But when you're traveling, even if it's just to the next town, then you can gorge yourself on things you've not seen before, and you can take an hour to compose a bunch of photographs in your head of new sights and new experiences. So think about that. Why do you take pictures? Macro pictures or any pictures? Why do you take a camera with you on holiday? Is it so that you can remember where you went? I hope not. It's to remember how you felt when you were there. Is that not a bit more accurate? If you think about that as you're taking the photograph, you'll take better photographs. What do you need to look at that is going to impart the feeling you had when you took the photograph to the person who views it? And you'll know that you are starting to get somewhere when you can consistently transmit to yourself and then eventually to someone else a sense of joy, or a sense of awe, or a sense of wonder, or a sense of fear, a sense of excitement in one of your photographs. And while this really covers any kind of photography, and probably leans more towards the general skills a photographer should have, every single bit of it pertains to small scale photography, the stuff that we do. And we'll probably talk more about that specifically in a week or two. I'm putting together some stuff on that, and we'll do that. It's 3 o'clock. I do apologize. I was supposed to, well, I wanted to come and say hi to everybody in chat, but I have run out of time. Do you ever run out of time? I do. I haven't even shown you any of my inventions today. So, well, come on Saturday next week for Tangent, and I'll show them to you then. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Mike, Bud, Larry. Oh, my goodness. I have got to... I bid on a microscope. You know Bud's microscope? The big microscope? I found one of those, and I bid on it. And the auction closed during this live stream, and I was the winning bidder at the beginning of the live stream, so I need to go check on that. Oh boy, I'm afraid to. All right, guys, thank you so much. There are some really good things I can already see in the notes for today, so I'm going to copy this off, and I will respond personally to any that I need to. Thank you so much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Crystal Art with Harold. And failing that, Bud and I will be doing After Stack on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Stay safe, be well, have a great weekend. If, like me, your weekend starts tonight and ends tomorrow morning, it's a short weekend, then have a good weekend. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, stay safe, and be well. Thank you, Bud. Thank you, Alistair. Thank you, Amy. I do appreciate your help.